The following is a production of the University of Minnesota.
Hello everybody. Hi, I'm Pamela Vold. I'm the program's co-chair, and welcome on this nice sunny day. There are a couple of announcements. First, our next First Thursday mixer is coming up on March 4th. That's over in the Campus Club, and it's really informal, so if you feel like chatting, networking, and having a drink, head over to the Campus Club on March 4th. Our next program is going to be the March 18th half-day program, and it's going to be on planning events to meet your communications goals, and the registration will open next week for that, so look for the announcement in your inbox. And one other announcement, our program committee is always looking for new members to help put on these programs. So if you've got ideas of programs that you'd like to see, and if you'd like to help coordinate them, please let myself know, or Ann Nordby, she's my fellow programs co-chair, because we'd love to have more people on board. Well, I'm really excited about today's program because I have to say I only recently learned what a creative brief was when somebody suggested it for a program, and I said, "What's that?" And then I learned what it was, and I had a sort of Homer Simpson moment of going, I've been doing things the hard way for a long time. So I don't know if anybody else is doing things the hard way, but hopefully Howard here can teach us the easy way and an even better way of doing it. Howard is the Director of Advertising and Creative Services at Asset Marketing Services in Minneapolis. His award-winning direct response copy and creative has sold more than $10 million worth of his clients' products and services. Lexus, Honda, British Airways, and H&R Block are just a few examples. He's also a business educator, author, and public speaker, and he's going to be talking with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Pamela. Is everybody going to be able to see that screen? Can we bring the lights down a little bit more, perhaps? Because I have some fun video that we want to look at, and I guess we'll see how it goes. Let's start. I guess you can see that. So you guys are members of the Communicators Forum. That's much better. You guys are professional communicators. That's very interesting. I have a theory about professional communicators, as one myself. I think professional communicators do a wonderful job of speaking to the audiences you're hired to talk to. But when it comes to talking amongst yourselves, we're kind of bad at it. And my proof is the fact that I have this book I've written on how to write a creative brief, because in my almost 25 years of experience in the ad agency business, I've discovered that because I have to read these documents to do the work that the clients have hired the agency to do, they're really poorly written. And I end up going back to the account people who write the documents and say, huh, what? And after 20 some odd years of reading really poorly written creative briefs, I decided to put my proverbial money where my mouth was. And I started to do it, created it with a tutorial, which I used internally when I was working at Carlson, as a matter of fact. Carlson Marketing Group. And that mushroomed into a workshop. And then the economy tanked, and nobody had money to spend on continuing education. You guys don't know anything about that problem, do you? No. And then I realized that I'd always wanted to write a book version of it. So between the workbook that I'd created for the workshop and the blog that I'd started and have been woefully ignoring, I had the beginnings of a book, which is what I was able to publish last summer. In fact, I have a few copies here if you'd like to buy one. It's $10, and there's no discount for an autograph. They're $13.95 if you buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, so get them while they're hot. Now, as professional communicators, I have a feeling that you've encountered something like this.
I'm afraid, sir, we still have a problem with Detective Harrison.
Yes, Mr. Harrison has an irritating talent for disrupting my arrangements.
Would you like me to have him removed?
Yes, perhaps. Perhaps it would be better if Mr. Harrison were taken out of the picture.
Sorry, guys, you're doing it again.
What, Alan?
Have him removed. Take him out of the picture. I thought we agreed at the meeting that these terms are needlessly ambiguous.
I suppose.
We all agreed that from now on, when we want someone murdered, i.e. deliberately killed to death, then that's what we're going to say.
Look, everyone knows what we mean.
Well, on this occasion, perhaps. I mean, that was an order to murder Detective Harrison, right?
He has become a nuisance.
Right, but a nuisance we should murder. Is that it? I mean, my nephew's a nuisance, but you see what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, all right.
Well, can you say it then, please?
Okay. Please deal with the Harrison situation.
You see, that's no good. Oh, that was perfectly clear. Oh, what are you talking about, Keith? This is going to be, let's hope Professor Ritson meets with a little accident all over again. We spent 9 months hoping that Professor Ritson would meet with an accident before Leslie made it clear it was an accident we were supposed to make happen.
All right, you've made your point. You two get on with your work now.
Oh, murdering?
So what do you think the point of that little clip was all about? Anybody? And that's kind of, I'm sorry? Clarity. Yeah. That's kind of what the creative brief is all about, is delivering clarity. And when you hire an agency or you hire you guys to do a communication, you have a budget, you've got a deadline, you've got an audience that you've got to talk to. You want to get it right. You want to get it right the first time. What's the old saying? There's never time to do it right. There's always time to do it over. How often does that happen in your life? Well, this is an example. I haven't got my presentation memorized yet, so I have to do a sneak peek. This is an example of, well, what my 7th grade science teacher had up on his wall. When all else fails, read the directions, you know. Be as clear, be as concise, and be as focused as you can in making your assignments, and you'll get better results, whether it's creative, you know, a car that's being built, you know, a science experiment. The whole point is clarity. So that begs the question, what is a creative brief? What do you guys, how would you define it? Anyone? Guiding document. Job description. Well, I have a couple things that I like to use to describe it. It's a blueprint. You wouldn't want to have someone build your house without one of these, right? Well, it could be fun, but you wouldn't want to necessarily move in and live there. This is my favorite. It's a treasure map. X marks the spot. If your creative brief, if your job description, if your assignment to write the brochure, do a website, do a TV spot, is dead on, you're going to get to that X a lot quicker. And you're going to save money in the process, and you'll probably do a better job. The communication piece that you've created will work effectively, or more effectively. This one's more straightforward, but I think it's just as accurate. It's a contract. You hire a freelance team, or a department head comes to you and say, we need a new blah, 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 and you've got 3 weeks to do it. Who gets 3 weeks to do anything these days? You got 3 days to do it, and this is what I want. Boom, 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 and by the way, oh, I got to go. So you didn't get that by the way. Turns out that he hates green, but no one bothered to ask because you know, his wife or his husband, her husband doesn't like green. And don't think I'm joking, because that happens a lot. If you don't get the information, the right information right up front, you can be in trouble, and you end up spending a lot of money. You end up wasting a lot of money. Oh, now we've done a little research. I've actually found some early examples of creative briefs. I mean, really, really old. Really, really old. Now, there's some scholars are debating whether this is a creative brief for underarm deodorant, or some actually say it's for the first home alarm system. That was funnier when I was thinking about it. There's another creative brief that some of us are still trying to figure out. And what happens when the creative brief is really poorly written? What does the creative team do to the person who wrote the creative brief? Early history shows that this is actually what's happened. You thought it was witches being burned. No, it's a account person writing a bad creative brief. And of course, there are some examples of when the person writing the creative brief has spent too much time in the creative department, working with the art directors and the writers, and he or she comes back with, well, we love being creative. We love being creative. So I'm going to take a good chunk of my time with you today, and I'm going to take you through some exercises. If this were a smaller group, I'd break you up into 3, 4, 5 people, and you'd all work on these together, but the group is a little too large to do that. So instead, just kind of come up with your answers yourself. But before I do this, I need a couple of volunteers, because I want to take you through some. Actually, we'll do the volunteering for a second, but I want to take you through a little visual exercise to kind of help make my point on the importance and the validity and the value of a creative brief. How many know what this is? It's a roll of film, right? Anybody have a camera that still uses the roll of film? A few of you. Most of you guys, if you have a camera, it's the digital kind, right? Now, how many of you know how to actually develop your own film? Oh, a couple. Good. Good. It's a dying art. So this isn't an actual roll of film, I promise you. But you take it out. You take out the roll of film, which looks like this. This is the roll of film. Okay. And you know what this is? This is the take-up reel. You got to put this film on this take-up reel. There you go. I can always count on someone to spill the beans early. I'm not going to actually do this, but I'm going to just take a sec to show you that there's a little tongue here, and you got to push it down. You got to take this thing and stick it in here. Then you got to wind it on here, and so that all the film fits right on those little in the reels, and the film doesn't touch each other, doesn't touch itself. And of course, you can't be touching the film like I'm touching the film, because what happens? You just ruined the... And because it has to be done in the dark, what does that mean? I mean, you can't be doing it out here. And when you're all done and you've got the thing, you've got this piece of film on this roll, I watched Julia Child, so I'm prepared. It looks like that, right? All nice and wound on, and none of the film is touching. So what's the point I'm making here? Developing a roll of film is just like writing a creative brief. Why? Think about that for a second. This is the hardest part about developing a roll of film. Why is it the hardest part? Because getting it on this reel is difficult, and you've got to do it where? In the dark. So you can't just do this the first time you take a roll of film out and develop it. You've got to do what? When in Rome, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. To get this thing just like this and in here, because then you pour the fluid and you do the thing, you've got to practice. If you get it wrong, if any of that film is touching, if you've touched it with your hand, if it's been exposed to the light, when are you going to find that out? When it's too late, at the very end. That's the point I'm making. If you don't use a creative brief, or if your creative brief is not well written, if it's vague, if it's missing information, and you give the assignment to your creative team, to you guys, and you are all excited because, oh, I got this great assignment to do, a great website, or a new speech for the dean, or a brochure, and somebody forgot to tell you that the dean hates green. You're going to have that thing all ready to go, and you're going to show the finished work, and someone's going to say, yeah, but I didn't want this. It's going to be at the very end, and it's too late. If you touch the film, you don't find out about it until you've gone through all those steps to develop the film, and you've wasted time and money. This is my little analogy. I hope you remember that. There'll be a quiz later, another quiz. Now, the creative brief is designed to absorb as much information about the assignment that you have been given or you want to give as possible. But there's one thing on the creative brief that's more important than anything else. Now, before let me just, do you guys use this document? Is it something that it's part of your everyday life in the business that you use, the business that you do? You're familiar with what it is. It's a job description. Well, I actually had a chance, someone showed me a copy of yes, you were showing me a copy of a brief that you use. And the point where I made that you had the word single used twice, I went right for that particular spot on the document because that is the most important question on a brief. I would call it the single-minded proposition. It could be called the unique selling proposition, the one key thing we need to say, the single, how did you phrase it on your document?
The single most important single thing or something like that.
I love the redundancy of it. It was like, just to drive home the point, there's only one thing that that people can remember. And the other analogy that I like to use in a brief is, you've heard about those folks who can fall asleep on a bed of nails? Well, communication with too many points never gets through. You put one nail on someone's bed, they won't be able to fall asleep. They'll get the point that you're trying to make. You may have 2 or 3 things that you're trying to communicate in a brochure, in a print ad, in a website, but one of them has to stand out. One of them has to be first among equals. So you always are going toward that one point. So to help illustrate that, I need to have someone help me. And since no one likes to sit in the front row, I'm going to go to the middle. And I'm going to play to the camera here. So how about you? What's your name?
Katie.
Hi, Katie. Come on here and help me out. I brought along a whole bunch of, I'm going to stand with my back to the camera, and you need to stand in the aisle here. I'm going to give you, yeah, right there. I'm going to toss these to you. Okay. So I put your pen down because I need you to catch them. Okay. I'm going to toss these to you, and I just want you to catch them. Well, what happened?
I couldn't catch anything.
You didn't catch any of it. Why not?
I'm clumsy apparently.
No. Does anybody see the point I'm trying to make here? Too many ideas. You're a good sport. I appreciate it. You're a victim. The point is, if you try to, people just can't. We're bombarded every day with too much information. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but I wanted to illustrate it in a way that drove it home. Because when you work with a creative brief, it forces you to arrive at, thanks, Katie.
Okay.
A hand for Katie. She's a good sport. And the exercises that I'm going to take you through for the rest of this conversation are going to drive home this point, because I want you to look at the things that I'm going to show you, and I want you to arrive at that one key message. We're going to start off with stuff that's easy. I've got a couple of movie titles first, and then we're going to have a couple of TV spots that I actually, if I haven't worked on them myself, I know what the creative brief was, and then I've got some that I don't know. It'll be I've seen them plenty of times, but I don't have the actual creative brief. But it's a great test of your ability to deduce. And this is something that you can do every day. You can walk down the street and see a billboard, flip through a magazine and see an ad, look at a chair, and figure out what's the most important thing about that communication, that item, your pet. What would be the one thing you'd say? So let's start off, and remembering that people can't remember too many things. They can only absorb one really key important message. Tell me what you think. In as few words as possible. Think about that for a minute. I'm just going to kind of pick on you and ask you what you think what the answer is. Now, don't give me a review. It's like, oh, well, she goes and bumps her head, and then she's, no. Give me 5 words, 4, 5, 6 words that said this movie is about. Who'd like to volunteer? Who'd like to start off? Go ahead.
4 friends go on an adventure.
Okay. What do you think? Not bad. Yeah? Ooh, I like that one. I like that one a lot. There's no definitive. I mean, I don't know if there's a definitive. I mean, that's probably pretty close. Anybody else? You had a thought?
Home is where the heart is.
Nice. Nice. So now if that were a single-minded proposition or a one key thought or unique selling point on a document that said, I need you to write an ad to sell this thing, would that help you? Home is where the heart is, or there's no place like home, and what was the other one I heard? Four friends on an adventure. Because you've been hired by the studio. Their studio actually has hired an ad agency. We need to do publicity posters for this. So would that help? Those are pretty clear? Okay, let's try another one. This is probably getting a little old. We should have some more current movies, but okay, anybody throw out an idea.
Good overcomes evil.
Good overcomes evil.
The force is with you.
The force is with you. I like it. Okay. Anything else? It's not easy, is it? This is the hardest part of a document, as important as a creative brief is. This is the hardest part to write. And I focus on this precisely because it's difficult to write. And I get involved in it every day in writing creative briefs where I work. And I've instituted the document as part of our process. And I feel very comfortable talking about the creative brief and talking about why the single-minded proposition is so important. But that doesn't make me a good single-minded proposition writer. It takes a lot of practice. A guy named John Haggerty, who's a creative director at a big agency in London. Haggerty, his name is in the agency name, and I can't think of it now. But he said, when you write the single-minded proposition on a brief, it's like the first attempt at a headline for the product or service. And it's not written by a creative person. It's written usually by an account person or the client or someone who's not really responsible for saying, okay, you're going to do the thing. But Haggerty said, if he can take the single-minded proposition and a picture of the product or the service and take that headline and attach it to a picture of the product or service and stick that up on the wall, it should be the first beginnings of an ad or a communication. I don't want to say ad. I want to say communication because you guys deal with lots of other things besides ads. We'll call it an ad-like thing. And if you can write a line that says, may the force be with you, and you see this picture, it's like, is that the beginning of a communication? Yeah, probably. Of course, we all know that may the force be with you is now part of our nomenclature. But that's something to keep in mind. If you're responsible, and I don't know what your functions are in your day-to-day communications lives, whether you are the ones who are writing the communications or you are the one who is directing the communications or both. But if your first attempt at writing what this thing needs to say, the one most important thing needs to say, ends up being an ad-like thing for your communication, you're getting awfully close. And just remember, it's not easy. People who do this for a living and do it well make lots and lots and lots of money. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what motivates everybody in the world, but it's a skill that when you learn it, you become in demand. And you can pass that on if you get good at it. What's next? Oh. So, welcome to Alchemy 101, turning stone into gold. Or, actually, I like this one better. If you can show that the results of your assignment using the creative brief deliver better results that you can measure, you've got yourself a document that carries so much more weight in your department. This is one of those things that the business folks eat up, but it's still something to keep in mind because I've encountered resistance to implementing this document in the agencies and the businesses where I've worked because they don't understand its value. But anytime you can show that by wasting less time, focusing the energies of the people who are working on the assignment, delivering things that are on target and on message the first time you show the work, you're getting more of your money's worth. There's just no way around it. Any questions? This is Keynote, by the way. I hate death by PowerPoint. So, inspired creative briefs lead to inspired creative communications, which means that, how many of you here do have some responsibility for actually writing a document called a creative brief? Okay. And the rest of you, I take it, read them or know of them and take the assignments from the document if you have them? How many don't get to see them at all? Okay. So that I'm assuming that the rest of you do. You're familiar with the document. So you're going to take this great information back to your departments and say, we need to do this better. Because there's no training. No one gets trained in this. That's why I wrote the book. If you were trained in advertising or communications in the UK or Canada, you would be trained in writing a creative brief because it was developed in the UK. They have a specific title. They're called account planners. And they do nothing but write creative briefs because they represent the eyes and ears and voice of the consumer at the ad agency. They speak for the consumer. So if your product was Kellogg's, or if your product was, YoPlay, you would immerse yourself in everything about what the consumer finds appealing to them about that product. And you would say to the folks who work, the account people, the creative people, the media buyers, you'd say, well, as a consumer of YoPlay, I like this and this, but I don't like that. So why are you talking to me from this point of view? So it's a skill that was, it's a set of skills that were brought to the fore in the advertising world in the UK and imported to the United States, but there's been no training on how to write this document. It's done, for the most part, by, I show up at an agency as a new account person writing a creative brief, and I learn from the person that I report to. He hands me his creative brief, and I read it and say, oh, okay, I can do that. But I don't know if what he did before me is any good. And usually it isn't. And that's the unfortunate thing. Okay, now the fun is really going to get started. I'm going to show you, I think this is a TV spot. I'm going to show you some TV spots, and I want you to tell me what you think the one key thing that they're trying to communicate. And we're going to spend some time on this, so I want you all to, and if you want to commiserate with each other, by all means do that. But I happen to know what the actual brief was for the next 3 things I'm going to show you. So this is an unfair. This is not a, what is the term? What is it when you know the answer to the question that you're asking? Pardon me? No, it's rhetorical, right. I know the answer to the question that I'm going to ask. I thought that was it Socratic? Anyway. You watch this TV spot enough, if you want to, I can play it twice. And you tell me what you think the one, and I grabbed these off the YouTube, so this is nothing that you may not have seen already.
They say our personality traits are formed at an early age. Presenting the 3.1-liter V6 Rodeo from Isuzu. The way we see it, it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Have you guys seen this one before? It's a few years old. Okay, think about that for a minute. What is the one thing they're trying to communicate? And the next slide will be the actual 5 or 6 word brief that I took literally from the brief. So don't worry if you can't get it right. It's not easy. But what do you think? What is it telling you?
Fun. This car is fun for boys.
Okay. Now, something else to keep in mind. Just because I know the creative brief and know the single-minded proposition and I've seen the spot and you have too, doesn't mean that what they're trying to communicate is actually what got through to you. So when I show you what the brief is, you can tell me whether you think this or this. So one here is, say it again?
This car is fun for boys.
This car is fun for boys. Yeah?
Something about like it's an acceptable way for adults to play in the mud.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Anything else? Makes you feel young again. All right. Play like a kid. Any other thoughts? Get dirty. Okay. Life is messy. Adventurous people buy this car. Okay. Anything else? That's quite a range. I mean, they're all kind of orbiting around the same idea planet. Be yourself. Okay. Don't let anything hold you back. I like that. We ready to find out what the answer is? Which ones of the ideas that you heard comes closest to this one? Don't let anybody hold you back. The normal restrictions don't apply. Do you agree? Does get dirty? Well, yeah, that's kind of a more blunt version of it. Do you agree? Does this make, could you see the spot that you saw come from this? Does it make sense? You're not sure. Right.
You know? Like, so
Right.
it was restricted in some.
Yeah, I thought about that too, because could that have been maybe too literal? Right, but he still found a way to do it. Sometimes you got to ask yourself when you see things like this, and you got to wonder, because of course this has never happened to you. The person who's assigned you the communication task has never said to you, "I don't like that. Change it." Right? You've never heard that before, have you? Really? Gosh, I only thought that happened only in ad agencies. So you don't really know. You don't really know if there was some tomfoolery on the creative that the client said, no, you can't do that. Got to put them on a restrainer. There's no way you can know. Okay, let's look at another one.
What is this?
Garbage.
No, these are our bills.
Looks like garbage.
No, these are our bills. How can you just toss out our bills?
I got people. They took care of it.
You got people.
I got people.
You got people.
I got
Play the Toss Out Your Bills instant win game at H&R Block. You could win $10,000 to pay off your bills or one of thousands of other instant cash prizes.
So this is garbage.
Yep.
That's actually not that old a spot. It's been around. It's not no longer being aired. But have any of you seen spots like that one? It's done by Campbell Methune right here in Minneapolis. What's your thought on this one? I'm going to start picking on you. Anybody?
You have nothing to worry about.
You have nothing to worry about. Okay.
H&R Block frees you from worry.
Frees you from worry. Okay. Anyone else?
We'll take care of you.
We'll take care of you. I like that one. What's the tagline? You know what a tagline is? It's that summarizing line. You got people. What does that tell you? You don't have to do somebody else's problem, right? That we're everywhere, right? I'm sorry?
Someone's there to support him.
Somebody's there to support him. Wow. Okay. When all else fails, the thing to look for when if you're out looking at ads, and only people like us would actually look at ads on purpose unless you're watching the Super Bowl, the tagline often represents as close an iteration as you can get to that single-minded proposition. So my remote won't work this far away. Here's the brief. I heard a couple of comments here that were like really dead on, really spot on. I mean, the tagline almost says that, but it's a real colloquial little way of saying it. I had the privilege of working on this account. I did all the direct response, all this stuff. If you ever used H&R Block and you got something in the mail, I probably wrote it. And if you didn't get your refund, don't blame me. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Was that simple or what? Not a word of dialogue. I'm a writer. That's what and I love writing long copy, but one of the things that I love about my profession is the opportunity to do a communication that doesn't use words other than the title. So what do you think?
Love the yard. That was love your yard.
Okay. That's cheating. But a point for you for just, saying it. What do you think a less creative interpretation of that might be?
The yard is part of the home.
The yard is part of the home, okay? Take care of your yard. Put it in the context of who's talking to you. Toro. So, what does Toro offer? Yeah. Okay. Some other thoughts? Yeah?
Because it comes in on the welcome mat, it's almost like saying your yard is a welcome mat to visitors.
Sure. Okay. That's good. Or a destination. Bring it back to the product. Beautiful yard is easy. Okay. If you have a Toro. Right. Right. We're hovering. Since I know this brief, I just want to get you to think more in terms of the product. Bring the product. The product is the hero here. But you don't see the product, do you? You see what? When you see the product's what? There you go. So.
If you love your yard, you'll take care of it. Well, Toro takes care. Toro makes beautiful yards.
There you go. That's even closer. We're getting close to a moon landing here. That's really so close. Do you agree? Does the creative that you saw reflect that? Do you agree with it? I should have asked that about the other one, the H&R Block. I think the H&R Block is just dead on, and they don't use that tagline anymore. They killed the whole "You Got People" campaign. There's no accounting for taste. What can I say? Okay, so now I've armed you with a visualization, and you guys are smart. You understand what I'm talking about. I keep saying to everybody I talk to about this is not rocket science. People who write briefs have plenty of experience and smarts to write an inspired creative brief. They just don't, they haven't had the experience at doing it. They haven't had someone to show them ways to do it. They haven't had enough practice at it. And when you get a bad brief, if you're responsible for doing the creative, if you get a bad brief, you're smart enough to figure out, well, I think what they mean is this, and I'll just go ahead and do it because I haven't got time. Or you'll go back to the person who wrote the brief and said, is this what you meant? Because the process doesn't always allow for anything else. You got a deadline, you got to get it done. So I keep repeating the same thing over and over again. This is not rocket science. Nevertheless, the more you know, the more you bring to the process, the easier it gets, the better your work becomes, and you sell more, you get more people to show up at an event. Whatever it is that your assignment is, it works better. So I've armed you with some, let me change it. I've reinforced what you already know, just with this few minutes of talking to you. Now we're going to it's going to get a little harder. I think that's what's next. Yeah. This time you're on your own. I'm going to show you 2 spots and then 1 icon. You're on your own. What's next? Did any of you see that coming? Did any of you know what this product was before it showed up? But did the spot keep your attention? Given, I mean, this is quite a few years old, and I don't think this was even running in the United States. I got this off a UK site. That was a 60-second spot. Given the amount of time that we spend between 16 billion other media sources, that 60 seconds still held your attention, didn't it? Of course, you're sitting here with nothing else to do, and I've got you. Whether you would actually sit through that if you're watching television, that's another story. But what do you think was the one thing they were trying to communicate? And I don't have the brief on this one. Refreshing. For all occasions. Mm-hmm. Keep it, when you think about these words or phrases, ask yourself, would the creative team have come up with bursting balloons? And Freddie, what's his name, the guy singing from Queen? Freddie Mercury. That was Freddie Mercury, right? Okay, let's get back to the focus, people, focus. Focus. Refreshing. What was the other one I heard?
It's a burst of refreshing spontaneity.
Burst of refreshing spontaneity. Yeah. Yeah, see, this is not, there's an ad I saw a few years ago, print ad. It said, some people cure cancer, some people try to stop wars. We just make weenies. So the point being that you don't have to be, keep it simple. My favorite phrase is KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So something as elementary as fizzy soda.
It's wet.
It's wet, it's wild, yeah. Okay, let's try another one.
I am faster than you. I am stronger than you. Certainly, I will last much longer than you. You may think I am the future, but you're wrong. You are. If I had a wish, I'd wish to be human. To know how it feels. To feel. To hope, to despair, to wonder, to love. I can achieve immortality by not wearing out. You can achieve immortality simply by doing one great thing.
All that for a scotch. What? That actually is a great example of, you guys were talking, last time you met, I heard you were talking, a recent assembly of this group, I understand you were talking about branding issues, correct? Was that something you talked about? This is a great example of what it means to be a brand. Because you didn't even know what the product was until the very last second, and then it's like, huh, what? Booze? But it said something very specific about what it means if you drink this brand of scotch. I've used other examples from this campaign because they did a serious rebranding effort. So what are your thoughts? What is the, yeah, back there. Exceptional scotch for exceptional people, yeah. Okay. What else? I love the editing where the robot, just before he says one great thing, the music stops. It's really well done. Any other thoughts? Experience your senses. That's actually pretty good, considering what it is that the product will rob you of. Any other thoughts?
Live large.
Live large. Okay. This one, we all grew up with this one. This should be easy. Dreams come true. What's the name? What's the tagline? What is the thing that you always hear the athletes say when they win the game and the microphone is stuck in their face and they say, "I'm going to," right? And what's that place? What is the term they use to describe that place? That's not the. There you go. The happiest place that's on earth. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's the brief. So now, given all that we've talked about here, you can walk down the street and see a picture. You pull out a dollar bill from your pocket and look at George. And if you saw a picture of George, what would you say about George? What would be the single-minded proposition about George Washington? You don't have to answer that now, but think about that. You could be sitting on the bus commuting in the morning, and you see a billboard over this person sitting across from you, and it's for tax preparation service or it's for a doctor. And you can say, yeah, that's communication is not really, I'm not really understanding what they're trying to communicate. So you got the tools. You can understand what it is that the assignment is. You can deduce the answer to the question, what are they trying to say? Or even who are they trying to talk to? I think I've got some more goodies here for you. So what constitutes a good brief? Well, I have a book on that subject, but here's a quick summary. It's brief and it's single-minded. Everything focuses on whatever that one thing that you're trying to say. It's logical and rooted in a compelling truth. Think about that spot we saw for Johnny Walker. It's all about the robot saying, I can be immortal, I can be immortal because I'll just live forever, but you can be immortal by doing one great thing, and you're associating that one great thing with a product. It incorporates a powerful human insight. Think about the emotion that grabs you every time you see Mickey. It's happiness. It's just, I want to be happy. Mickey makes me happy. It's as simple as that. But finding that, and this is where that account planner comes in, because the account planner can be that voice, the eyes and ears of the consumer. But you can do that too. If you're writing the brief or you're reading a brief and you're saying, no, we can do better than this, you can ask yourself, well, what's that powerful human insight about this thing that I got to write about? You can't write the creative brief if you don't have a strategy. Some people get the two confused. They say, well, we'll do our strategy while we're writing our brief. Oh, no. You got to know what your plan is before you try to execute it. The creative brief is a tactical document. It can be a strategic document if you're trying to write a master brand brief, but most of us use it every day just to, I got to get this thing done. I've got this assignment. I've got to write this. I've got to do a direct mail package. I've got to do this. What's the brief? In this case, if you don't have a strategy, send it back. And this is the most important one, of course. It's hard work and it's teamwork. You can't do this by yourself. You know, I don't know how you guys work, but I always work with an art director. I sit down with an art director. I'm the writer. I work with the art director. We bat ideas around. Sometimes the art director will come up with a headline. Sometimes I'll come up with a visual idea. But it's teamwork. And, you know, people who write creative briefs do this by themselves. And I say, why do you do that? Why do you do this by yourself? Why do you isolate yourself? Come and talk to your creative team. Talk to another person who's writing this. Collaborate, because you can't accomplish anything in isolation. It makes no sense. So, how do you write an inspired creative brief? What was I talking about before about getting to Carnegie Hall? Excuse me, Carnegie Hall? Of course, I have a quicker route. Any questions? thoughts, observations?
Do you think the Johnny Walker piece, was relevant to the brand?
Yeah, I actually know, I know the background on how they rebranded. They changed they went through a branding exercise, and the first thing they did, which is most people don't even notice, was they changed the direction of the icon, that little man walking. He used to walk this way. Yeah, and now he walks this way. You know why? Yeah, it's a universal communication that you walk to the left, you're walking backwards. You're walking to the right. Yeah, to the right, you're walking forward. There are a whole series of ads that just capture this sense of growing, evolving, changing, and you could debate whether it's effective, but I think it's pretty powerful. The question that I would ask, and I think you would all wonder, is who's going to sit through a 60-second spot in today's media environment? Maybe if you went to YouTube and we're just looking around, but would that spot work? I picked it up off a UK site, so I don't know if it's been aired here.
I think your point about is it authentic to the audience, though?
Yeah.
Does it range? It feels a little false if it, might align with the brand, but does it resonate with people as being like, really Scotch?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah.
If you're not a Scotch drinker, and I'm guessing here the target audience is probably mostly male, not exclusive, but mostly male, probably of a certain age, 40, 35, 40 and older, certain household income is pretty high, probably drives a nice car, successful business person, probably married, and that's not you. So it may not resonate with you.
Maybe the spot works because it was not what I was expecting as I was watching it, but I was watching it wondering what's going to happen. And maybe it's 60 seconds long. It works because you're wondering, what is this all about? And you stick with it till the end because you can't figure it out.
Right. The question I ask as a direct response advertising professional is, that's awfully dangerous. Because if you're going to set up an audience that much and the payoff doesn't work, so it better be darn good. As a direct response copywriter, I would like to get some more product in there in the first 10 seconds, even if there's another way of hinting at it. That's me. Yeah.
I went to the British TV Awards this year,
Yeah.
and it seems like they are all long, so maybe that's just the way.
A lot of those spots are submitted for the awards show in a longer format. They may have run once or twice in a longer format, so that the editor and the director got to do the director's cut, and they submit those instead. So yeah, that's understandable. Yeah.
Go back to that Johnny Walker ad. I guess it's a calculated risk from another perspective too.
Because again, I'm not part of that identified audience. So they're certainly not trying to expand their audience. And they just piss me off. Because I know guys like that. They have a few drinks and they think they own the world. I mean, so they may enchant some people, but they certainly did a little harm with me.
That's the kind of the nature of a brand. I mean, a brand is designed to project something for you. You feel a certain way about yourself when you wear a particular pair of jeans or shoes, and that's what a brand is designed to accomplish.
But I'm not necessarily criticizing it. I'm just saying that they made a decision, and the decision was to rope in their people tighter, and they don't care about me. They weren't trying to expand their marketplace. It seemed like they were trying to consolidate the one that they have.
With that spot, maybe there are other spots that might resonate with you more. So.
Since we're at the U, I have to put in the plug. You said you can't go to school for this, but there is a master's in strategic communication in the School of Journalism, and you can take 2 years of study, and guys from Campbell and Thuden teach some of the classes and things like that. So.
Do they teach how to write a creative brief?
Yeah, we did.
Really? Well, then that's the exception to the rule, because there really aren't very many places across the country for you to do this. There's no other book If you go on Amazon, there's a book. Mine is the only book on this subject. There's a book on how to write a design brief, and then there's an ebook on how to write a creative brief, but mine's much better. There's a question up here.
It is 4:30.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions for creating buy-in? We do something that's not, we do sort of this, but not really. And so it'd be great if we had, a creative brief for every project. So I work with, a lot of faculty members, creating communications for them. And then, I work under deans that have demands on my time. And so what's a good way to sort of sell this to both of those parties?
Well, I work in the world of direct response, which means I test everything. You create a communications, and then you try to, it usually goes out in the mail, often goes out in email. And then we try to beat it. So we always are testing A against B, sometimes A, B, and C. So I would suggest a good way to prove that a creative brief can be of help to you is to do 2 assignments, one with and one without. You kind of have to do the creative brief on your own and find out if the results, if you get to the assignment, if you produce the work from the assignment quicker or on target the first time or earlier or more focused with the brief rather than without the brief, that's proof that it's a valuable document. That would be my best suggestion. And to get my book.
Well, thank you for coming today and talking to us. And if you have any questions afterwards.
Yeah, by all means. Thank you.